Hello and welcome to EC&M Ask, a Q&A video series brought to you by EC&M Magazine and is found on their website, available to the members only section where readers pose the most pressing questions in our industry today. Hello and welcome. My name is Don Kiper. I run a company called Estimating 101 where I provide training for electrical contractors in estimating and project management and departmental organization to assist contractors in the estimating process to be as efficient as they possibly can. And so let's jump right into our question today that I get asked a lot. And that is, I'm asked many times, how do I know that I have the right number of labor hours on my project? And so understanding labor is vital. An estimator must understand how we calculate labor hours. So the first thing about labor is we have to understand a labor unit. A labor unit is a unit of time that the estimator counts and measures, and this labor unit is assigned to each item either manually on paper if contractors are using pencil and paper. But most every contractor I work with are using software and computers, and all of these labor units are stored inside the software. But understanding that labor unit is a basic standard labor unit, meaning that labor unit is an amount of time that it takes to install that piece of material in the most optimum, perfect, ideal conditions. However, not every job and every project have perfect and ideal conditions. So if you were to take a NECA labor unit manual, NECA, the National Electrical Contractors Association, has produced for many years a labor unit manual. And they will tell you that those labor units are derived through contractor studies, but those labor units, what we call column one, is arrived at by the most efficient, perfect, project without any hiccups or difficulties in arriving at a labor unit for that item. However, not every project is created equal. So the first aspect of making adjustments to labor units is found what we call installation labor factors. An installation labor factor is a condition in which the material is going to be installed that is not normal and not standard. So for example, if an electrician was installing half-inch EMT conduits, say on a wall around a room or a building, that labor unit would be a standard labor unit. Well, let's suppose that conduit is going to be installed 40 feet up in the ceiling of a high bay warehouse. Now there's a lift involved. Now there's an electrician on the lift. Now there's an electrician on the ground. And so now this labor unit just got higher. And so these adjustments are made using software, either manually on the paper, but an estimator must understand what we call the conditions of installation. For example, most estimators are electricians, or maybe they were brought in from the field into the office. And so a master electrician should understand the conditions of installation. For example, a number 12 THHN conductor, according to table C and the NEC, I believe is 20 amps you could put on that conductor. However, if that number 12 is on a continuous load circuit, like a lighting or electric heat circuit, you can only load that to 80% of the capacity. So now it goes to 16 amps. Well, let's suppose you put that number 12 wire in a 2-inch conduit with 50 current carrying conductors. Now that number 12 conductor can only probably carry 8 amps. So the amperage the number 12 can carry is dependent upon the conditions of installation. Electrical estimating is no different. So when an estimator is quantifying and estimating a project, he must keep in the forefront of his mind conditions of installation. If it's going to be installed at 20 feet or 30 feet, or maybe in a slab, maybe in masonry walls where the electrician has to work with the brick masons. These are what we call conditions of installation. Or for example, a vertical run in a high-rise building. If an electrician is installing conduit vertically in a building, that means he's going to probably put maybe a 10-foot piece of pipe um, up through a equipment room, a mechanical room. And now he has to move up a floor. Now he has to take material. He has to take tools. He has to take everything he needs to put in a single piece of pipe. And then he has to keep moving up the building. So again, a condition of installation will be a vertical run of conduit. This labor on this item is going to take more than running it horizontally across a building. So these are what we term as conditions of installation. These are adjustments made to the labor units based on the specific condition of installing. There's a second aspect of making adjustments to the labor. So we want to determine, first of all, the direct labor. And this is installing the electrical material. And this will be the total number of hours that it takes to install all of these light fixtures, the panels, the receptacles, the switches, fire alarm devices, security devices. So these are all the hours it's going to take to install. Then we make adjustments in our bid summarization and the estimating process. And this is an adjustment what we call project labor factors. A project labor factor is different from an installation condition. A project labor factor is a project condition that affects the labor negatively. And so we have to look at the schedule, the completion date, if there's any phasing on the project, if a certain area of the building has to be done in, let's say, the month of March, and then the other section has to be done in the month of April. Maybe the contractor is going to have to mobilize and remobilize and then go in and off of the project on several occasions. These are what we call project labor factors that will affect your productivity. Let's say, for example, a high-rise building is a project labor factor. So as the building gets taller, it's going to cost us more labor to get material up, get tools up, to get the workers up, and all of these affect the total number of labor hours. Project labor factors are conditions that affect the labor negatively. Let's say a project is 100 miles from your home office, and now maybe the electricians are going to be traveling during the week to get to the site, or maybe it's close enough that they're going to drive for an hour each day. All of these conditions will impact the labor of a project and should be considered in the estimating process. So arriving at the total number of labor hours is very, very important. We want to estimate, count, measure. We arrive at the direct labor hours. That's installing the material. But now we look at our estimate when we summarize it, and now we're going to add more hours. We're going to add hours because of the project condition, maybe the schedule, maybe we're going to have 20 electricians on the job. Basic rule in electrical contracting, the more men you have on a project, the more and the greater the loss of productivity of those electricians. And so this is very important to understand that as the project condition changes, we're going to have to make some adjustments to our labor hours. Electrical contracting is all about understanding labor. Very few estimators make mistakes in material cost. It's always about understanding labor. So there's two major factors of making adjustments to project labor hours, and that is installation labor conditions. That's how the material is going to be installed, and or a project labor factor that affects the project productivity negatively. Let's say, for example, in the state of Minnesota, you have to do a lot of work outside during the wintertime. The cold weather will cause your workers to work slower. Let's suppose you're down south, say on the Gulf Coast in the state of Louisiana or Alabama, and maybe you're doing a solar farm and you're going to be outside working during the summertime, during the tropical rain season where there's lots of rain, and you may have rainout days and workers may start and then it starts pouring rain and they have to get in out of the rain. These are all conditions that the estimator must consider when estimating a project. because arriving at the right number of labor hours is vital. And I assure you, a quality skilled estimator must understand determining the labor hours. That's all the time we have today for this question, and I hope you'll tune in next time for our next question.